This happened a few months ago. I was 35 and just got through a tough breakup. I thought a fishing trip to Lake Deadwood would help. I'd been coming here since I was a kid, so I felt somewhat comfortable. I wasn't an expert, but I could handle a fishing rod. I hoped it would clear my head, but I've never stopped thinking about what happened. On the first evening, I set up my gear and cast my line. The air felt still, too still. I noticed unusual ripples on the water, like something was lurking underneath. It made me uneasy, but I brushed it off. As darkness fell, I heard faint laughter echo across the lake. I looked around, but the shore was empty. That was strange. I thought maybe it was just the wind. The next morning, I got up early to fish. I unpacked my gear, but when I went to grab my tackle box, it was gone. I was sure I left it on the table. I shrugged it off, thinking I must have forgotten. I didn't catch much that day, just a feeling that something wasn't right. I kept glancing at the woods, thinking I saw shadows shifting between the trees. I felt cold even though it was warm out. The sun just didn't seem to reach me. As night came again, I sat by the fire, listening to the sounds of the lake. It was quiet, almost too quiet. Then I heard whispers, soft, barely audible. I thought I heard someone say my name, Jake. A chill ran down my spine. I called out, "Is anyone there?" No answer. I told myself it was just the lake playing tricks on me. But deep down, I felt this growing dread. On my third evening, things got worse. I arrived late at night. The cabin felt different. Items were scattered around, and there was this old fishing lure I didn't recognize pinned to the wall. I was sweating. I could hear whispers again, stronger this time. They seemed to rise from the water, swirling around me. The shadows in the trees felt like they were watching me. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I stared out at the lake, waiting for something to happen. Around dawn, I saw a figure standing at the edge of the water, just out of reach. I blinked, and it was gone. I don't know if I imagined it or if it was real. My heart raced. I packed immediately, eager to leave. At that point, I was unsure about everything. The lake was a mystery, twisting in my mind. Did it hold secrets, or was it all just in my head? As I drove away, I kept looking back. It felt like the whispers were still trailing me. Maybe they were. I didn't want to return, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had left something behind. Then I remembered the lure. A cold shiver crept up my spine. What did it mean? I still don't know. Chapter 2. I didn't plan to come back to Lake Deadwood. A few weeks passed, and I convinced myself I was over it. Yet the memories hung around like a bad smell. One evening, I found myself driving back. I told myself it was for closure. I didn't want to admit that curiosity was pulling me in. When I arrived, the cabin looked the same, but everything felt off. The air was thick, almost choking. As I stepped inside, I felt that familiar tingle in my spine. I shook it off and settled in for the night, deciding to confront whatever lingered in my mind. I wondered about the lure. I had to understand it better. I woke early the next morning, determined to fish in the same spot where I had seen that figure. The lake shimmered, but it didn't feel welcoming. As I cast my line, memories flared. I heard the whispers from the previous night, but this time they were louder, almost demanding. I turned quickly, scanning the shore, expecting to see someone there. Nothing but trees. I fished for hours but caught nothing. Just quiet tension in the air. After a while, I noticed the water's surface was oddly still, like a sheet of glass. That's when I saw it, a dark shadow moving beneath the surface, gliding toward me. I felt my heart race. Panic clawed at my chest, but I didn't move. I needed to see. Suddenly, the shadow shot up to the surface. I stumbled back, ready to run. But there was no explosion of water. No fish surfacing. It just vanished. I was left standing there, trembling, staring at the spot where it had been. Whatever that was, it made my skin crawl. I decided to explore further, looking for answers about the lure and why it felt sinister. Walking along the shore, I came across a piece of wood half buried in the mud. It was carved, with strange symbols etched into it. Bent down to inspect it closer, I felt a cold breeze sweep past me, making me shiver. Then I heard a child's giggle, very close. My blood ran cold. I turned, expecting to see a kid playing at the water's edge, but the beach was empty. "Hello?" I called, my voice wavering. Silence. I felt the urge to run, but something in me wanted to stay. Just then, my foot hit something hard. I looked down and saw a metal box half covered in dirt. Curiosity overcame my fear. I knelt to brush the debris away. My hands trembled as I lifted the lid, revealing something inside: a collection of fishing lures, each one older and stranger than the last, including the one from my cabin. Then, I saw a note tucked beneath them. I pulled it out, but as I unfolded it, another sound broke through the silence. The whispers returned, louder and more frantic. They surrounded me, drowning out everything else. I was feeling pinned down. I couldn't breathe. "I need to get out." I tossed the lid shut and stumbled back, but as I turned to leave, darkness swallowed me. Suddenly, it was hard to see anything. Where was the sunlight? Next, I heard footsteps behind me, slow and deliberate. Someone was there, and now I felt the terrifying weight of being watched. I needed to move. But I was trapped in whatever was lurking in that lake. Chapter 3. I stumbled through the darkness, my pulse quickening with each step I took away from the box. The whispers were still there, skimming at the edges of my sanity. I felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Somehow, I needed to escape this suffocating haze. As I moved, I felt the damp earth beneath my shoes. The shadows shifted, playing tricks with my eyes. I wanted to believe I was alone, that my mind was just conjuring fears from the past. But the sound of footsteps followed closely, echoing back to me in the silence. I couldn't take it anymore. "Who's there?" I called out, desperation creeping into my voice. The footsteps stopped. The silence was thick now, like a blanket stifling me. I turned to see if I could catch a glimpse of whatever was hunting me, but nothing was visible. Just trees and the eerie feeling of presence. I forced myself to breathe, trying to calm the rising tide of panic. I started to jog back toward my cabin, but the cold sweat made my grip on reality slippery. My mind raced. What had I unleashed by coming back here? Were those whispers tied to the lures in that box? I pushed through thick underbrush, the branches scratching at my skin. Finally, I emerged onto the path leading back to the cabin. I felt a flicker of relief until I noticed something odd. The cabin door was ajar. Had I left it open? The chill in the air deepened. I inched toward the entrance, every instinct screaming at me to run. Yet my feet betrayed me, dragging me closer. Inside, the familiar scent of musty wood and dampness greeted me, but something else lingered, something sharp and sour. I called out again, but my voice was swallowed by the silence. Shadows danced around the room, revealing nothing but stillness. That was until I spotted an object on the table. It was a lure. It was the same one I had just found in the box, of vibrant red, glinting menacingly under the weak light. My heart sank as I realized there was no way I had left it there. My mind raced through the possibilities. Someone had been here and placed it back on the table for me to find or to taunt me. I moved closer, feeling the pull of that unknown danger. As I reached for it, something scratched at the window behind me. I jumped back, my breath catching in my throat. I turned slowly, every muscle tense. There, just outside, was a figure. A little girl with wild hair and hollow eyes stood staring at me, a ragged doll clutched to her chest. She smiled, but there was nothing innocent about it. "Come play," she said, her voice echoing eerily in my ears. Before I could react, the cabin darkened, almost as if the light was being swallowed by a black hole. I was enveloped and had only the sight of her eyes burning into me before everything went black. What did I just stumble into? The walls closed in, and I felt the weight of those whispers compressing me until I could hardly breathe. Chapter 4. I jolted awake, gasping for air. The darkness around me felt thick, like I was suffocating in a void. I blinked, trying to adjust to the dim light that crept in through the window. Trying to remember where I was, the events of the last moments flooded back, and panic surged through me once more. The cabin was empty. The shadows loomed, and for a brief moment, I thought I could still hear the whispers echoing around me. I jumped to my feet, scanning for the girl, but there was no sign of her, only the lingering chill that slapped my skin. I took a step back and bumped into the table, bumping the lure. It rolled slightly, the red surface catching the light. I grabbed it, feeling its weight in my palm. The lure seemed innocuous, but its history felt dark, as if it held secrets I wasn't ready to uncover. I set it down hard, as if it disgusted me. I needed to find my phone. The thought of it provided a small flicker of hope. It had been charging on the kitchen counter. I moved quickly, cautiously stepping over splinters of wood peeking from the floor. My heart drummed harder in my chest with every creaking sound the old boards made beneath my feet. When I reached the kitchen, relief mixed with dread washed over me. The counter was empty. No phone, no wallet, nothing but an empty spot where I remembered placing them. Panic consumed me again, my thoughts spiraled. Had someone been here? Or was it just my mind playing tricks after the ordeal I had experienced? "Get it together," I whispered to myself, clenching my fists. I needed a plan. The sunlight seeped through the gaps of the boarded window, pushing back the dark. I took a breath and thought about the lure. Why had it been placed back on the table? Did it mean someone was watching me? I peered out the window, scanning the tree line. I had to see what was out there. My body felt tense, like it was resisting the urge to flee. Then I spotted a flash of movement, a figure darting between the trees. A rush of adrenaline sent me racing toward the door. I pushed it open, squinting against the sudden sunlight. "Hello?" I shouted. My voice echoed back to me, swallowed by the vastness of the woods. The figure had vanished, leaving only the anxious rustling of leaves. I stepped onto the porch and noticed footprints in the dirt leading away from the cabin. They were small, too small to be an adult, and they disappeared into the thicket. My curiosity warred with my fear as I considered following. I had to know what was happening. Then I remembered the whispers, echoing thoughts that made my skin crawl. They seemed tied to the girl, to the lure, to something I couldn't fully grasp. I hesitated. Should I search? Could I risk it? I shifted my weight, torn between the desire for answers and the instinct to run. Then, from behind me, the sound of a doll rattling on the cabin floor broke the silence. I turned slowly, my stomach sinking. Who else was here? My heart raced, and I felt the familiar creeping in of panic. I stepped back, desperately looking for an escape route, but what was waiting for me outside might be worse than the unknown inside. Chapter 5. I didn't waste any time. The rattling sound sent my nerves into overdrive. I dashed out of the cabin, gripping the door frame for support. I felt exposed, like I was offering myself up to whatever lurked in those woods. The sunlight hit me hard, but I barely noticed. I focused on the footprints. They led deeper into the forest, just beyond the fringe of the trees where shadows danced. I hesitated again. Should I call out? What if I was chasing something dangerous? "Hello?" I said again, quieter this time. No answer came back, just the rustling leaves. I edged forward, following the prints, a creeping sense of dread settling in my bones. I glanced back at the cabin. The thought of being alone inside made my skin crawl. I swallowed hard, steeling myself against the urge to flee. I stepped over the threshold between safety and uncertainty. Each step felt simultaneously right and wrong. The deeper I went, the more the sounds changed. The rustling faded, replaced by a silence that hung heavy in the air. It was unsettling. A chill crept down my spine. I shouldn't be here. That's when I noticed it. A raw, wooden sign half buried in the underbrush, angled awkwardly as if someone had hastily pulled it from the ground. I knelt down, brushing leaves off the surface. It read, "Beware the lake. There are things that should not be caught." My heart raced. What did that mean? Would the girl explain it? Or was I about to uncover something worse? As I stood up, a noise behind me made me freeze. A sharp snap of a twig followed by a giggle. I whipped around, eyes wide. "Who's there?" I called, my voice shaking. "Come play with me." A voice chimed back, bright and sing-song. It was her. The girl. I couldn't see her, but I could feel her presence hovering like a specter, teasing me from the shadows. "Where are you?" I demanded, stepping forward. "What do you want?" "I want to show you something," she replied, her voice dancing, echoing through the trees. There was a playfulness there that unnerved me more than anything else. "Why did you leave me?" Suddenly, the air shifted. A heaviness filled the space, and laughter faded. I felt a chill on the back of my neck as if I was being watched. A sense of wrongness crept in, tightening my chest. I turned back toward the direction of the cabin, the pounding in my heart quickening. Something wasn't right. The girl's laughter echoed in my mind, but it was a call to something I could not see. And then, the bushes rustled again. Something was coming, whatever was drawn to the girl. My instinct screamed for me to run back, but my feet felt glued to the ground. I had to know what lay ahead of me, yet darkness loomed behind. That's when I saw it. A shadow at the edge of the clearing, beyond the sign's warning, creeping closer. I was not alone. Every instinct told me to turn and run, but my feet stayed rooted, drawn into the mystery. I needed answers, but at what cost? The whispering laughter grew louder, beckoning me toward the unknown. Chapter 6. The shadow shifted, becoming more defined as it moved closer. I stood frozen, fighting the urge to bolt back to the cabin. My breath came quick and shallow. I could feel sweat trickling down my back. "Who's there?" I managed to call out again, my voice tremulous. The air seemed to thicken, wrapping around me like a cold blanket. Whatever it was paused, and for a moment, there was silence. Then, a child's giggle broke through the tension. "It's just me." The girl's voice was innocent, but it sent a wave of nausea through me. I instinctively took a step back. "Show yourself," I demanded, my voice slightly steadier. But deep down, I wished for the voice to disappear entirely. The figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the dappled sunlight. She looked like any other young girl I might encounter, hair tousled, wide eyes bright with mischief, but something was off. The way she smiled sent a shiver down my spine. It was too wide, too unnatural. "Come on, don't be scared," she chirped, as she twirled, her dress swirling around her. "I just want to show you the lake. It's so pretty." The laughter from before echoed once more, this time sounding distant, like a memory I couldn't grasp. That sign, the words flashed through my mind, "Beware the lake." My heart raced. Whatever was in that water, I didn't want to find out. "I don't think I should go," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "Why did you leave me back there?" Her smile faltered, slightly, like a flicker of a candle. "I just wanted to play." She tilted her head, and I thought I saw something dark flash behind her eyes. "But you have to see. You'll understand." Without thinking, I turned and took a few hurried steps toward the cabin. "I'm sorry, I can't. I need to go back." Panic surged in me, and I threw a glance over my shoulder. The girl stood still, her expression now unreadable. "Don't you want to meet them?" she asked, an edge creeping into her tone. "They're waiting." "Meet who?" I pressed, mind racing with the implications. The girl's giggle turned sharp, slicing through my anxiety like glass. "You'll see. Just follow me." She took a step toward me, and the air quivered with anticipation. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to run as fast as I could. But deeper inside, curiosity battled fear. I hesitated, torn. My eyes darted to the skewed sign, its warning echoing in my mind. Then, the earth rumbled slightly beneath my feet. A low rumble, as if the ground itself were warning me. I stepped back, my feet finally finding the will to move. I was done playing games. "Wait!" she shouted, her voice shifting to something more demanding. The laughter faded completely into a hiss. "You can't leave now." I sprinted, heart pounding, arms pumping as I ran back to the path leading to the cabin. The trees seemed to close in around me, branches clawing at my skin as I pushed through. With every step, I could feel something trying to pull me back. As I neared the clearing, breathing heavily, a deafening noise erupted from the forest, a splash, followed by a low, guttural growl that echoed through the trees. "Something is in the water," I whispered, dread pooling in my stomach. My legs moved faster, but my mind raced with that sinister giggle. There was no way I was alone, not anymore. And whatever was now lurking in the lake was not just a game. I reached the cabin door, flinging it open, but before I could step inside, I caught a glimpse of the lake from the front porch. That shimmering surface was something beneath it, watching me. The girl's last words echoed in my mind, "They're waiting." I had to know what it all meant, but the cost was rising with every second I lingered. Chapter 7. I slammed the cabin door behind me, a shiver racing down my spine as I leaned against it, trying to regain my breath. The moment felt unreal, a nightmare woven through daylight. I glanced around the cabin, desperately searching for something to ground me, but the familiar surroundings only heightened my dread. The wooden walls creaked and groaned, as if they were harboring secrets of their own. I moved further inside, but every shadow, every corner felt charged with a presence I couldn't shake off. My heart still raced from the encounter, the girl's sinister giggle echoing in my ears. I sank into an old chair, taking deep breaths. I needed a plan, some way to make sense of what was happening. But my mind spun with the image of the lake, that shimmering surface hiding whatever lurked beneath. I grabbed my flashlight, shaking as I turned it on. The beam cut through the gloom, but as I swept across the room, I caught something, a reflection. My breath caught in my throat. On the glass of the cabin window, a small handprint glistened, as if someone had pressed against it from outside. The girl. My instincts screamed at me to hide. I dropped the flashlight, scrambling to my feet, my heart pounding in a chaotic rhythm. I stepped toward the window, grimacing at the thought of looking outside. But I couldn't stay inside forever, could I? What if whatever was in the lake was now at the cabin? With shaking hands, I pulled the curtains aside and peeked out. The view was too shadowy to see clearly, but I could make out the faint outline of the trees swaying. Then, something caught my eye, movement by the water's edge. My breath quickened as I squinted into the dim light. I could just make out a figure, kneeling at the lake, its back turned to me. My mind raced. Was it her? "Stay away from the lake," I whispered to myself, shaking my head in disbelief. I should have never come here. But curiosity gnawed at me, strong and insistent. I couldn't help myself. I edged away from the window, ready to grab my things and leave when I heard a low chant, echoing through the trees. A soft, haunting melody that felt both foreign and familiar. My heart sank. The girl had said they were waiting. The chant seemed to pull at my very core, luring me closer against my will. Struggling to resist, I stood frozen, torn between fear and the insatiable urge to know. Then everything changed. The ground beneath me trembled again, stronger this time, rattling the cabin as a strange wind howled around me. I stumbled back, panic rising. It was as if the earth itself was alive, warning me to turn back. Suddenly, the window shattered with a deafening crash. I spun around to see the girl standing there, her smile sharp and gleaming. "You shouldn't have looked," she sang, her voice eerily melodic. I backed away, scrambling toward the door. Fear surged through me, eclipsing my curiosity. I had to get out. The cabin felt alive, a cage ready to consume me. As I pushed the door open, a chilling thought hit me: the lake wasn't just a body of water anymore. It was a trap. That's when I heard the chorus of voices join the girl's chant, echoing from the lake. They weren't waiting. They were calling me. Chapter 8. I hurled myself out of the cabin and stumbled into the night, the cold air biting at my skin. The chanting grew louder, almost drowning out my ragged breaths. Each step felt heavy, as if the earth below was trying to pull me back, trying to drag me into that cursed lake. I ran toward the trees, desperate for cover. The shadows loomed around me, whispering secrets. My flashlight flickered in and out, casting jagged beams that danced across the ground. I wanted to find safety somewhere to regroup and figure out what to do next. As I plunged deeper into the forest, I could still hear that haunting melody, wrapping itself around my mind. The urge to follow it surged again. I shook my head violently, trying to clear it. I couldn't let it get to me. Whatever it was, it wanted something. Then I saw it, a flicker of movement in the underbrush. My heart stalled. Had the girl followed me? I crept closer, my breath steadying as I prepared to confront whatever was lurking in the shadows. But as I moved forward, my flashlight caught a glimpse of a pale figure, hunched over. It was a boy, maybe my age, but his face was twisted in anguish. I hesitated, afraid he was another trap, a lure to bring me to the lake. "Help," he croaked, glancing up. His eyes were wide, filled with fear. "They're coming for you." My heart dropped. "Who?" I asked, my voice trembling. He glanced over his shoulder, as if sensing something. "The ones from the water. They want you." Panic swept over me. "Why?" He shook his head, backing away, his eyes darting. "I was taken last summer. I thought I could escape, but they don't let go." My mind raced with questions, but I didn't have time. The chanting intensified, drowning us both in its eerie rhythm. "I need to get to my car," I shouted, but the boy only stared. "Don't go near the lake," he pleaded. "You don't understand. The lake holds them, keeps them alive. They'll use you." Before I could respond, a sudden rush of air sent chills down my spine. The trees swayed violently, and the voices erupted into frantic laughter. I looked back toward the cabin, and that's when I saw her again, the girl. She stood at the edge of the water, her eyes locked on me, a puppet master waiting for her strings to be pulled. "Run!" I shouted at the boy. I didn't wait for him to react. I turned and bolted deeper into the woods, determination overtaking my fear. I had to escape. I had to warn someone. But with every step, the ground trembled beneath me. The laughter echoed, mingling with the chant, a twisted symphony that seemed to pull against my very being. Just as I thought I'd left it all behind, a deep voice called out, resonating from the darkness. "You cannot escape." I froze, dread washing over me. And that's when the ground erupted, cracking wide beneath my feet. Chapter 9. I stumbled as the earth splintered beneath me, a fissure opening wide, swallower of night. My instincts kicked in. I turned and ran, but the ground shifted again, sending me off balance. I barely managed to catch myself on a gnarled tree root, my heart racing. I could still hear the boy's terrified warning echoing in my mind, the chorus of laughter growing louder, more chaotic. Panic gripped me. I had to move. I had to survive. The flashlight flickered one last time before dying, plunging me into darkness. I cursed under my breath as I scrambled forward, relying on instinct and the faintest outline of the trees surrounding me. I needed to stay low, quiet. The wind howled a warning through the branches, sending leaves swirling around me like whispers of doom. I pressed on, my breath hitching in my throat. I had no idea where I was going, but somewhere in me, the primal urge to escape drove me deeper into the woods. Then, out of nowhere, the chanting stopped. The silence was suffocating. I paused, straining to listen, the faint rustle of leaves, the distant call of an owl. But no laughter. No voices. It felt like the calm before an impending storm. I crouched behind a thick trunk, collecting my thoughts. The boy's warning replayed in my mind. The lake. I had to avoid it. I needed to keep my distance. But the realization hit me like a punch. My car was near the lake. I was trapped. Just then, a flash of movement caught my eye. My heart raced again as I turned, but it was just shadows shifting. I took a slow, cautious breath and looked around. With every moment of silence, dread coiled tighter in my stomach. Then I heard it, a whisper. Soft, almost like a breath of wind, but it spoke my name. Come to the water. I felt the chill run up my spine. It was her voice, the girl. My instinct screamed at me to move, to run away, but something in her tone pulled at me. I could almost taste her words, sweet and dreadful. Please, it beckoned again, sounding almost desperate. You can help us, no. Powerful as the urge was, I shook my head hard. I wouldn't let it win. I wouldn't be drawn to the lake. But the pull was getting stronger, threatening to sweep me away. I scrunched my eyes shut. I wasn't going anywhere near that water. With renewed determination, I twirled from my hiding spot and ran in the opposite direction, hoping to find the trail to my car. But as I sprinted, the ground felt alive beneath me, shifting and rolling. I could hear them again, the whispers and laughs, their voices now layering over each other, forming a sinister symphony. Help us. Join us. Suddenly, I stumbled upon a clearing, moonlight flooding down as I tried to steady myself. My breath hitched as my eyes locked onto a figure standing across the space. It was the boy, but something was different. His eyes seemed hollow, like he was part of the shadows. And then I saw a glimpse of something glimmering eerily in the moonlight, half visible just beyond him. What happened to you? I gasped, stepping forward, but a wave of cold fear washed over me as I realized I might not like the answer. Don't go near the lake, he said, voice muffled, as if he were already fading again. It'll take you to. The glimmer drew my attention again, and as I turned, I heard a voice behind me. You can't ignore us. I whipped around, and that's when everything went dark. I awoke with a start, gasping for air, my body heavy with exhaustion. The sounds of the woods filled my ears, the rustling leaves, distant calls of the night, but I felt disoriented and dizzy. Was it all a dream? Had I truly heard the girl, the boy? My heart raced as memories of the lake flooded back, whispers, shadows, promises that drew me in and threatened to pull me under. The moonlight bathed the clearing in an ethereal glow, but it felt ominous, like a stage set for horrors yet to unfold. I pushed myself to my feet, knees shaking as I took in my surroundings. I was no longer in the woods, I stood at the edge of the lake instead, its still surface glimmering under the moonlight, inviting yet foreboding. Jake, the girl's voice rang out, sweet and taunting. Come play. Every instinct screamed at me to turn and run, yet a strange compulsion held me still, my gaze locked on the water. Shadows shifted beneath its surface, dark shapes swirling, as if something long slumbering was awakening. Panic clenched at my chest. I had to fight this feeling. Run! I shouted to myself, waving my arms as if to dispel the dark thoughts lingering in the night. But nothing broke the surface. Just calmness, a deceptive peace that made my heart pound louder in my ears. I remembered the boy's warnings, his face complacent and hollow. Something about this place wasn't right. With a sudden surge of determination, I turned away from the lake, willing my feet to carry me back. I took one step, then another, moving back toward the woods, each backward glance into the water more haunting than the last. But it was the whispers that infiltrated my mind, growing louder, pulling at my resolve. Stay, play, join, they called. I stumbled, but I pressed on, forcing my legs to quicken as I ducked back into the embrace of the trees. The familiar path I'd taken before was long lost to the twisting thickets around me, and the darkness felt alive, pulsating with a force I couldn't comprehend. I didn't know which direction to go, but I followed my instincts, noting every broken branch, every rustle. I was certain the lake wasn't far behind me. It felt like being hunted, something unseen tracking my movements as I wove through the underbrush. Suddenly, I burst into a small clearing lit by intermittent moonlight, and my breath caught in my throat. My car lay just ahead, an oasis amidst the ghostly shadows. I sprinted toward it, freedom was so close. But as I reached for the handle, a chill washed through me. I froze. A figure stood by the driver's side. The girl, her eyes wide and unblinking, she pointed toward the lake with a knowing smile. Don't you want to come and see them? They're waiting for you, she crooned. You won't be alone anymore. Terror coursed through my veins. No. I'm leaving. I shouted, fighting against the grasping darkness. I pulled the door open, but suddenly the shadows shifted, twisting around me like chains, squeezing tighter. As the whispers escalated into a cacophony, I bolted, dodging past her, racing back into the trees. The unseen presence grew stronger behind me. Where were they coming from? Were they the ones in the water? Branches slashed at my skin as I ran, but I didn't stop. I could feel the ground trembling beneath me, the air thick with malice. They were coming. I wouldn't evade them forever. And just like that, I stumbled. I went down hard, pain shooting through my ankle, forcing me to look back. Shadows danced toward me, figures emerging from the depths of the darkness, children, hollow-eyed and pale, just like her. I scrambled to my feet, knowing an escape was just a moment away. I darted left and right, trying to shake them off my heels, but they glided effortlessly closer, the silence around them eerily profound. Then I broke through to the edge once more, the lake shimmering before me like a mirror, mocking my every move. The chanting began again, a melody that felt deeper than just sound, woven into the very fabric of the night. Join us, I stumbled backward into the water's reflection as the girl's voice echoed. Jake, take my hand. Without thinking, I lunged for the shore, now only inches away from the water's edge. Whatever awaited me beneath had to be resisted. I could feel their cold fingers brush against me as I fled, just long enough to make me falter. But as I pulled back, my eyes caught that glimmer, something vibrant beneath the surface. My mind raced with the lure, the promise of something more. I turned, bolting with every ounce of strength, the whispers trailing behind, fading into the night. I didn't look back as I dashed toward my car, heart pounding, dread coiling behind me like a storm. Just a few feet left. I threw myself inside, slamming the door shut as I fumbled for my keys. The shadows lingered around the edges of my vision. The lake was a threat that would forever remain, but I wouldn't be caught by its siren call. As I drove away, the echoes grew fainter, but I felt them carved deep into my memory. Somehow, it was far from over, and though I had escaped, the questions remained: was it all real? Were the children trapped within that water, or merely reflections of my own fears? I stole one last glance at the rearview mirror. The lake shimmered in the distance, a haunting promise of what was left behind. I had survived, but the darkness was still there, just below the surface, waiting.